The Friday the 13th films are always pure and simple exercises in commerce, made for dirt cheap and delivering reliably huge returns on investment. It didn't much matter if a particular installment was dreadful or the best one they'd ever done because they always turned a profit. However, those profit margins were starting to get thinner as the box office grosses continued their decline from sequel to sequel. So by 1987, Paramount wasn't ready to walk away from Jason Voorhees, but they were looking for a way to make one last big splash. Unfortunately, their dreams were dashed, and we got this instead. So meet us once again at Crystal Lake as Charlie Cotter, Laramy Wells, and I discuss Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood from 1988 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Well, welcome in everybody to the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host. We're excited to have you with us. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we want to hear from you, so connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If you're feeling generous, you can support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com. And of course, visit 80sflickflashback.com and our TeePublic store for some awesome 80s Flick Flashback merch and original designs. My two co-hosts today are no strangers to the Friday the 13th franchise. First up, he may be the youngster of the group, but he knows a good 80s slasher when he sees one. It's Charlie Cotter. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm all right. I'm doing well. I'm definitely the youngster of the group, but I've definitely, like you said, I've seen my fair share.
Yes. And of course, we couldn't talk about Jason Voorhees without this guy. From Moving Panels podcast, it's Laramy Wells. How you doing, Laramy?
Great. This is my favorite Carrie sequel.
Yeah, pretty much. So we're talking, of course, it's Friday the 13th. We're doing our bonus episode because we have a Friday in the month of June. That's the 13th. So we're almost out of, almost messed
There's
up.
typically 4 Fridays in June.
But only one that's the 13th, and it only comes around every so often. But we're about to run out. We're in 88. We've got one more after this one. So, but we have, I think I've had both of you, I don't think on all of them, but on most of them. I think Laramy's been on all of them. I think Charlie's been on most of them.
Maybe.
But anyway, go back and listen to, we've done 1 through 6 so far. So here we are with number 7. So let's jump right in. Laramy, when did you see Friday the 13th Part 7 for the very first time on TV?
When it aired, when it aired on Channel 36 in Atlanta, whenever I was a kid. Yeah, I can't tell you exactly when, but it definitely was again. All of the Friday the 13th, all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, they were all on television in the probably early 90s when I was a child. Although honestly, other than like the nudity and the language, this didn't have to be cut all that much, I wouldn't think.
Not for TV, but they cut a lot because, we'll get into it. They had to cut it 9 times to keep it from getting an X rating. And the director was not happy about it. Yeah.
No, I'm just talking about with the finished product, like editing it for television hadn't have been that drastic.
Yeah, much like one of the previous ones we talked about where it's like it was the most goreless and, the cleanest of the Friday the 13th movies so far. So, Charlie, what about you? I know you bought the compilation, and that's usually what you tell us you watched it for the first time.
I was about to say, if you've listened to any of the other episodes, I bought the box set maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and I sat down in a week or 2 and watched all of them. So yeah, this is, and then I watched it again not too long ago, so it's pretty fresh on the brain.
Yeah. I can honestly say this was my first time watching this one. I had never seen this one before. I know we talked previously, like, I wasn't a huge horror of 80s fan. I got into Nightmare on Elm Street, but Friday the 13th I definitely got into later. But I know I'd seen, like, I remembered seeing 4, I remembered seeing 3, but the later ones I didn't. And so, yeah, this was a first time watch for me. But I kind of knew that it wasn't one of the better ones, so my expectations were not very high, and I'm glad because even with low expectations, it still wasn't good. But we'll get into it. So, how long has it been since you rewatched it before rewatching it for the podcast? Charlie said he just watched it a little while ago, right?
Yeah, just watched it and then watched that the recap that goes through all the highlights and lowlights of this movie. So yeah, just finished that not too long ago.
Gotcha. What about you, Laramy?
Probably, other than watching it to prep for this show, it's probably been 2 or 3 years
Okay.
since I've watched it. Again, I am a fan of all of these, so I do watch them on a fairly regular basis. Not necessarily yearly, but fairly consistently.
Do you watch them in order, or you just pick one to watch every so often?
If I'm going to watch them, I usually it's kind of the way Charlie just talked about. Like I usually try to sit and watch as many of them as I can from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. Watch the decline from movie to movie, like in real time. Gotcha. All right, well, let's jump into pre-production and story origin. After the previous installment, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, which reintroduced the Jason Voorhees character, Part 7 was originally intended to be a crossover film between Jason and Freddy. With each Friday the 13th sequel, the box office profits were diminishing, with the films in the Nightmare on Elm Street series grossing nearly twice the amount of the Friday the 13th films. Paramount Pictures proposed the crossover idea to New Line Cinema, the rival company who held the rights to the Elm Street films, with Paramount controlling domestic distribution and New Line controlling international distribution. The idea was abandoned after the two companies failed to come to an agreement, with the concept only coming to fruition after New Line purchased the rights to the Friday the 13th franchise, releasing Freddy vs. Jason in 2003. But one of the concepts for Part 7 was conceived by associate producer Barbara Sachs and was noted as being similar to the plot of Jaws, where a corporate land developer covers up the previous Jason Voorhees massacres in order to profitably build condos on Crystal Lake. Executive producer Frank Mancuso Jr. resisted the idea, and screenwriter Daryl Haney stated, quote unquote, "There's always a teenage girl who's left to battle Jason by herself. What if the girl had telekinetic powers?" Sachs, who considered the Jason versus Carrie concept to be an interesting idea, wanted the installment to be more respectable than the previous entries in the series. Haney stated that she wanted to be unlike any other Friday the 13th. She wanted it to win an Academy Award. Several high-profile directors were considered for the job, including Italian filmmaker Federico Fellini. Instead, they got John Carl Bochler, an American special makeup effects artist, screenwriter and actor. He was best known for his work on horror and science fiction films, mostly as part of Charles and directed films such as Troll, Cellar Dweller, Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, and Curse of the 49er. His makeup work included Ghoulies, Troll, TerrorVision, Dolls, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So, not Academy Award winning stuff.
No, but I have a problem with one thing that was said.
Okay, what's that?
He said that Jason, there's always a final girl with Jason. Had he forgotten the last 3 movies?
I think
the Tommy Jarvis trilogy?
Right. Well, I think like what I read a different account where he was basically on the payphone with the producer, and every idea he gave them, they wouldn't take. And so he's like, well, let me just throw this out at you. So it was kind of a bottom of the barrel pitch idea. So he probably wasn't thinking of it clearly all the way through, but yeah. And the director now calls it Carrie versus the Terminator. He doesn't even think of it as a Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th type movie.
Look, if the best thing to come out of this movie and then the next 3 is Kane Hodder.
Absolutely. The best Jason, hands down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing you said in there actually makes a lot of sense about the whole, they wanted to get, Jason kept getting stronger and stronger, and so they needed a new idea. So they came up with Carrie instead of just a regular final girl. If you have just a regular human, well then this zombie teleporting Jason could just make short work of it. So I guess it makes sense, with movie number 7.
Yeah.
Let's get crazy.
Going back to Kane Hodder, though, if your worry is that Kane's getting stronger, why do you hire a guy who's built like a house? He's got to be the thickest Jason.
Yeah.
Maybe not the tallest,
Right.
but the thickest Jason we've had yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the way he moves around, especially in the later scenes, he's
Kane
not,
Hodder's so good at that.
Yeah, like he's not necessarily smart, but like quote unquote, he's the smarter Jason. Like he closes a door and he like is trying to scare them, and it's just it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's jump into casting since we're right there talking about Kane Hodder because he's at the top of the cast list.
As he should be.
Sorry, my notes it takes me back to the top. Okay, so Kane Hodder is Jason Voorhees. Hodder is best known for his portrayal of Jason Voorhees with 4 appearances in the film series, this being the first one. Then he returns for Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, then Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, in which he also played Freddy Krueger's clawed glove hand, and he was Jason in Jason X, and one in the video game Friday the 13th, the game. He is also known for his role as Victor Crowley in the Hatchet series. He also played Leatherface during the stunts of Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and the motion capture in the video game, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did the same guy who directed this one direct the Hatchet movies?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was on there.
Yeah. And then Kane Hodder also plays like a security guard or something in
one of them.
And it's
Next.
Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. Which is common. We see that a lot in, we've seen it more often where the person, like the guy who played the Predator in Predator, he was the helicopter pilot at the end. So you get to see them outside of the makeups.
And then in Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Robert Englund played Robert Englund.
Yeah. So in Kane Hodder's book, Unmasked, the true story of the world's most prolific cinematic killer, he notes that one of the fondest memories of the Part 7 shoot was the film's costume department making his mother a custom Jason's Mom crew member's jacket, which he found very amusing. He says that she would wear it during the whole final 2 decades up until her passing. He noted that it would be over 90 degrees in his hometown of Sparks, Nevada, but she would still proudly wear it to the grocery store, hoping someone would say something. In case they inquired, her purse was loaded with signed autographs that he would send to her that were leftovers from his convention appearances. He noted that at times it got playfully embarrassing, but because it made her beam with pride, he also oddly loved it and holds on to it as a positive memory. So had to share that. That was a good little story there.
I wonder if it had a hockey mask on it, or if people walking in the store were just like, "Oh, cool, Jason's mom." His name is Jason.
Well, I think it was like, on the back, it probably had the film logo, the film title, and then the front, Jason's mom instead of her name. But it would be funny. So, but I wonder if the autograph pictures are just Jason, like him in costume. It's not his face. Like, are you sure this is your son? Who's behind the mask? But yeah, very, very good. So next we got Lar Park Lincoln, one of the most interesting actress names I've known, as Tina Shepard. She also appeared in the 1987 film House 2, The Second Story, as Kate, and in the 1988 episode of the anthology horror series Freddy's Nightmares. She also appeared in the television series Knots Landing from 87 to 91. Yeah. So,
very nice.
The producers, after turning down Marta Kober, who appeared in Friday the 13th Part 2, and Carrie Noonan, who played in Friday the 13th Part 6, John Carl Buechler, the director, originally wanted Paula Irvine to play the role of Tina Shepard because she was 19 years old at the time and had the perfect teenage look and the personality he was looking for. Unfortunately, she was already committed to star as Liz in Phantasm 2 that also came out in 88. So he was unable to cast her for the role. As John was running out of time, he was not able to find a real teenager between 18 and 19 years old to play the role of Tina Shepard. He had no choice but to cast Lar Park Lincoln, who was 26 years old at the time. She had to wear a lot of makeup to look approximately 8 years younger than she looked so the audience would think she's a teenager. Did they really, though?
Yeah, you also got a love for an actor to hear. He had no choice but to hire.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so the producers also like that. They said she resembled Sissy Spacek, who played Carrie in the film Carrie. I didn't really see that.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all, but can't believe everything you read on the internet. But what did you guys think of her as the main protagonist of this, for this episode or this entry in the franchise? Anyone?
I thought she was great. No, I thought she was great. She played the scared, unknowing, coming into her powers well, I thought, especially considering the other casting and the other acting that you see in the movie.
Or lack thereof.
Right, yeah, right. Other than Kane Hodder being amazing, I thought she was the second best. Obviously, being the main character, we see the most of her.
Right,
but I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind her. I like that she didn't go over the top with her psychic ability. You know, kept it very subtle. You know, that's one thing that probably is my biggest critique about Carrie and Sissy Spacek is the way she does her eyes. And just the snapping back and forth. Yeah, I at least appreciated that Tina Moore made it a constant, like she's concentrating type thing, and didn't make it, you know, obvious of what she was trying. There's a couple of times where she moves her head in the direction she's wanting something to go, but I didn't mind it. I think she did a good job.
Yeah, I don't have anything negative to say. I don't think she was a standout necessarily. Like, I'm not shocked that I didn't see her in a lot of other movies. Like, she's not my favorite final girl of the series. I think there's been others that were stronger than her. But once again, I don't really have much to complain about. I think she did well with what she had. You'll see as we go, I don't have much to talk about cast-wise. And I could even tell you right now, even going through the cast, like, I don't remember who anybody was. There's so many, I mean, I'm used to there just being people there for him to kill that just kind of happened to, you know, come into frame at the wrong time, you know, come into the scene at the wrong time. But there was no real relationship between the people for that. Like, they didn't seem like a good group of friends that you got to know. Like, it seems like in the other movies, there was maybe a little bit more time showing them as friends. Here, you knew she was the outsider, of course. Tina was the outsider. And the one psycho girl that was obsessed with Nick, where's Nick? But everybody else were just like, I'm just like, oh, these are just bodies for him to, for him to kill. But I couldn't tell you anyone's name. And even I struggled to remember Tina and Nick for the most part. But yeah. So let's talk about Nick, or the one that played Nick Rogers, Kevin Blair, probably best known for his roles as Dr. Craig Wesley on the soap opera Days of Our Lives and Jonas Chamberlain on the ABC soap opera One Life to Live. Those are the two most soap opera names, Craig Wesley and Jonas Chamberlain. So, yeah. So it's well known that Lar Park and Kevin did not get along while making Friday the 13th, The New Blood, despite playing love interests, so much that Spertus wrote his own script with a Friday the 13th, where The New Blood was only a dream and his character Nick killed Tina. On the deluxe edition Blu-ray commentary, Lar notes that while she and co-star Kevin did not initially get along on set, a mid-2000s convention appearance brought them together under much calmer, non-film related circumstances. They soon began having dinner after an appearance regularly and soon after became very close friends. She even noted that he sang to her daughter as she took the crown from Miss Texas just some years before the commentary. The two now chuckle that they initially didn't get along, yet now are very close-knit friends. So, good to know they worked it out, but I didn't really see the chemistry between them.
Nah. Well, there's a good reason for that. I don't know if you're aware.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get into that part of it, but yeah, he played for the other team. We'll just put it that way.
So did pretty much every other male actor that is in this movie.
Yes. Yeah, I read that as well. So
there wasn't a lot of chemistry with any of them.
Right. Which I think once again makes it even more awkward that there's not real chemistry with anybody. Like, nobody seems like a real couple at all. They're just like, they're Jason fodder.
Everything very forgettable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, we're getting into it. So Susan Blue, who played Amanda Shepard, Tina's mother, I didn't think there was much here, but she's a very well-known voice actress. She voiced RC in Transformers the movie in seasons 3 and 4 of Transformers. She's also known for playing the roles of Stormy, Mary Phillips, and Lindsay Pierce in the 80s animated series Jim. She also served as a casting and voice director for Hanny Manny, for which she also guest starred as Marion. So, there you go. She was a well-known voice actress. And then the only name on this cast list that I recognize, Terry Kaiser, is Dr. Chris Cruz, who's best known for playing the deceased title character Bernie Lomax in the comedy Weekend at Bernie's and its sequel, Weekend at Bernie's 2. Yep, good old Bernie.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say for the people out there of the younger generation, as you point out, the guy who played Eddie, I don't remember his real name, but he was a voice actor. He did some of the voices on Dexter's Lab, and he was the voice of Johnny Bravo.
He was, Johnny Bravo.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. That's, like I said, that resonates with me more. But I had and he doesn't look like he would voice Johnny Bravo, but I mean, I believe it.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I don't think I had him down.
And going back to Terry Kaiser,
yes,
me as the Superman guy, he played and bearing my last name, he played H.G. Wells on The New Adventures of Lois and Clark in the 90s.
Very cool. Yep. But it was crazy for me because when I started watching it, I didn't look at like what year it came out, and I was kind of confused because I was like, it feels more like a mid 80s, like 85, 86, like even, I mean, Weekend at Bernie's came out a year later and he looks so much older in Weekend at Bernie's. Now maybe they wanted to be younger and look older or whatever, but it just seemed like it was hard for me to believe this was made in 88. It just didn't seem to have the same kind of the quality, or it just looked older. The only other castmate that I'll really kind of talk about, only because she did some things. Elizabeth Keighton as Robin Peterson. She was the redhead. She made her, that's the only reason I had to put that there so I remember who she was. She made her film debut in the raucous comedy Waitress in 1981. She had a one-line mid-part as a German girl in Woody Allen's Zelig. She moved to Los Angeles in 1984. She alternated between lead and supporting roles in a bunch of entertainingly trashy, low-budget exploitation features in the horror, action, comedy, and science fiction genres. She appeared as Candy in the Vice Academy film series. Her other memorable parts include Jennifer Staten in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 in 87. She was in Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity in 87. Assault of the Killer Bimbos in 88.
There you go.
Gretchen Hope in Rollerblade Warriors Taken by Force in 89. Yeah. So
love those titles.
Yeah. They were so fun. I had to share them. So her death scene had to be reshot after principal shooting on the movie had wrapped in Alabama. She was originally killed by Jason by having her stomach cut open with a machete, but the makeup appliance underneath her shirt was noticeable. So the scene had to be reshot in Los Angeles with her being thrown out of a window by Jason instead. And of course, we know this was just like the similar kill from, wasn't the one before this one? Was that 5?
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many throwing out the windows and
somebody wrote
Although I will say, no one has ever been thrown out a window and landed so softly.
Yeah. I think I read they were like the other girl that got thrown out landed on the car, which is probably what killed her. And they said with her only falling out of the second story window, she probably would have been hurt, but probably didn't die. So,
wouldn't have died.
Yeah. But we don't see her again, so you assume that's what happened. So, did you recognize the voice at the beginning as the narrator?
Not.
I did.
There are two theories, or there's not two theories. There's two reports. One is that it's Walt Gordy, who played Crazy Ralph in the first 2 entries.
Crazy Ralph returning from the dead.
Exactly. And there's another one that said it was Stacy Keach Sr. who did the voiceover, but I want to go with Walt Gordy. I like to know that he came back. It was his final role before he passed away. So thought that was worth mentioning. And then the director, John Carl Buckler, made a cameo. He was the firefighter who picks up Jason's broken mask at the end.
Good for him.
Yeah, had to be seen. All right, anybody else on the cast that I know you mentioned the one that I didn't mention, that was Johnny Bravo's voice, but anybody else that you thought was worth mentioning?
Nope. Other than Other than maybe just to throw her out, I don't know her name, but the young Tina.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who, when I was younger, before I knew better, who thought she was the girl from Poltergeist?
As soon as it started, I was like, "Is that the same?" Yeah, I thought the same.
Am I watching the wrong horror movie?
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember. When I did Poltergeist, I remember saying that she was in this movie.
Yeah, she looks just like her, but I know she's in one of the Leatherface movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she plays Leatherface's daughter or something. I'm not.
It's in the one that's called Leatherface.
Okay.
Because when you said the daughter, I at least know which movie it is. Still couldn't tell you her name, but
right.
But it's the one it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Yeah,
it's called Leatherface.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Kane Hodder was one of the stuntmen in that one. So, yep. This is going to be a tough one for me. Iconic scenes. Is there a scene in this movie? Like someone had said,
yes,
the new blood.
Yes, there is.
Okay, all right. What's the scene?
The sleeping bag to the tree.
Okay, okay.
That is an iconic Jason kill.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So yes. Now, if you were to say which movie was it from, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you that it was from this particular movie. Yeah. But if you're just asking what is an iconic scene from this movie, that's it.
Okay.
For sure.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, and there's not really a scene, but just another iconic, I guess, moment is a lot of the stunts that Jason takes. Obviously, we've praised Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
That's all him. But like some of the stunts that he takes in this are just absolutely memorable and slightly psychotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the walk.
Yeah.
He gets whatever everybody pictures of Jason is Kane Hodder. I would bet money the way that he walks, the way that he, like, sometimes before a kill, you'll see him take a breath in and he moves, his shoulders come up. It's like, here we go. And, kills somebody. The turn he makes with his head before he moves his body. That's great. I did get a kick out of, there was one scene, I think he's behind a tree and he kind of does a peekaboo over. Yeah. Kind of humorous, but still, the Kane Hodder and the way, as Charlie's saying, just this Jason, Jason is iconic.
And he also kind of pulls like a Michael Myers, and he'll admire some of his kills. He doesn't do it every single one of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, he just has that extra 1 or 2 seconds where he just looks at him or is like, yeah, I did that.
But we talked about, Charlie mentioned earlier about, the teleporting Jason, which people always talk about. Like, how did he get there? In this movie, I'm going, where did he get that weapon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially after he kills Tina's mom. Which he just does with whatever that thing is, but it's just, a standard little weapon. And then all of a sudden he's going after Dr. Cruz with a weed eater, with a saw blade attached to it.
Yeah.
Where did he get that? Where was that?
Just laying in the woods.
Cool bag.
He's just placed things around.
Yeah, I did see somewhere a little fun fact is that's the only motorized weapon in the entire Friday franchise that Jason gets a kill with. That is the only one. Everything else is a, standard
blunt object.
Machete, axe,
yeah.
His hands squeezing someone's head.
Yeah. Which that one he does several times.
Yeah, he's good at that one.
I will say, like, one of my other favorite ones when you're talking about the walk is whoever the party was for, that the cousin that was running late, where he was using the bathroom, he kills the girlfriend, and then he starts to run and Jason does the walk. And I'm like, oh, here we go. He's going to catch up with him. Like, nope. He just takes the knife out and just throws it and hits him in the back. I was like, that's cool. Like, I'm not even going to chase you. I'm just going to kill you from here. So that was one of my, that's probably, second definitely to the sleeping bag, but that was probably one of my favorite kills as well. So any other favorite scenes? No.
Just the fight scene, where you actually get Carrie versus Jason. That's
talking about the stunts, like, he was the stunt man for when the front of the house falls in on him. He was the stunt man when he falls through the
So
fire.
talking
the
about
fire.
when the roof falls down on him,
Mhm.
do you know that actually injured him?
Yeah.
And he says the only reason he did not sustain a serious injury is because of the mask.
Wow. Okay.
And if you look very closely, the stunt woman that's playing Tina, you see her from behind,
Mhm.
right before it cuts, you see her flinch because she realizes what just happened to Kane.
Yeah. I think I read too, like when he fell through the floor, like he barely missed one, like more of the floor broke than they thought, and he barely missed hitting the back of his head on one of the open.
Yeah. It wasn't so
boards.
much that more of it's just he almost went too far.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
And his head, if he had been just a couple of inches farther, his head would have hit a stationary step that
Yeah.
wasn't designed to break.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course y'all mentioned the fire. And I think at the time of this movie, that
Yep.
was the longest recorded.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the first time that you saw it lit on film. Like typically they do it separate, but he actually had an igniter on him that caused him to catch fire. You see it on camera, and then he went 40 seconds, which at that time was the record for the longest.
Was the longest burn.
Yep.
Kane Hodder is awesome.
And the other crazy thing is he had already done a fire stunt and got burned seriously.
Yeah, he's got a scar.
Yeah, world record burn. So he might actually be crazy.
Well, he has the word "kill" tattooed on the inside of his bottom lip.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not where I'd want to put a tattoo.
No, I don't have any tattoos.
I don't either.
But I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Look, I don't like needles anyway. That's why I don't have a tattoo. But I can't even imagine, it's hard enough thing is going to be on my arm or something that's not that sensitive. I don't even like getting my teeth cleaned. Come on, y'all. All right, well, let's jump into some scenes and trivia. Mentioning the sleeping bag scene, Kane Hodder said he had difficulty with the scene because of bashing her into the tree because the dummy and the fake blood inside was heavier than he thought it would be. The scene required a number of retakes because he kept swinging as hard as he could, but no matter how hard he swung the sleeping bag, he couldn't get it to look right. By the final take, he was so fed up with the situation that after he dropped the bag, he kicked it angrily. This is the shot that appears in the final film. In retrospect, he says that is one of his favorite kills that he later recreates in Jason X in 2001. Yep. But yeah, but also they said that in the version we have, she only hits the tree once. But in the uncut scene, he actually like 6 or 7 times, like it was multiple times. And every time it would hit the tree, you would see more blood come through the sleeping bag. So, but they had him cut it.
Stupid MPA.
Right. And they said you can find like fan made director's cuts or like unedited, but the film quality is very poor because they said they were, back then they weren't thinking about director's cuts. So they were getting rid of the extra film. So they've talked about that. You're not going to find a director's cut that's going to be of good quality, but they say there's some out there on the internet if you want to search. All right, so another trivia. Director John Carl Buckler stated that he clashed with associate producer Barbara Sachs continuously over many ideas that he had for the film. This included showing Jason unmasked for quite a bit of the movie, which we saw that at the end. She vetoed the idea, but he ended up filming it behind her back. He also stated the final sequence of Tina's father coming out of the water was to be more elaborate and feature full prosthetics and a life-size dummy. That sequence was completely overruled and ended up filming what he considers an inferior version of the idea. What we've said before we started recording, worst ending ever. Like, even when I watched this day, I said I hadn't seen it before. But when when Jason was coming at her and the boyfriend, Nick, was in the boat, and I was like, please, no, do not tell me the dad is coming out of the water. And as soon as he popped up, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, there is no way. How did this get approved?
Yeah. And 2 things. One is he looks great.
Yeah.
For the fact that he's been under the water for 10 years. But second, why has he been under the water for 10 years?
Right. Yep.
Why was his body never recovered? It's not like they didn't know where it was. There's just, I guess, something about getting bodies out of Crystal Lake. They just don't do it. I don't know.
Yeah. They don't know what they're going to find down there. No, I actually, so that's my next point. Writer Daryl Haney admits the conclusion of Tina's dead father coming out of the lake to save her was a stupid mistake. Rector thought if they were going to do it, then Tina's dad needed to come up looking almost as decayed as Jason, since he was supposed to have been dead at the bottom of the lake for just as long. Scenes were shot with actor John Autran in full makeup, but Buckler was overruled by co-producer Barbara Sachs, who thought this effect looked equal parts disgusting and silly. So instead, they threw some traces of mud on his face and called it good. Fans have since theorized that the father is not his revived corpse, but only a manifestation of Tina's powers due to his lack of decomposition, the unexplained appearance of the chain that he carries, and because his body would have undoubtedly have been recovered from the lake after the death, which it isn't that large.
Hope, yeah,
which isn't that large or deep. So yeah, fan theories can try to help you, but it's still a terrible ending.
Yeah, I mean, it would be different if there was proof that she could actually manifest something.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, I don't know. Then it kind of gets into Nightmare on Elm Street, of where I'm going to imagine that I'm holding a sword, and then she's holding a sword.
Right.
Yeah, that gets into Freddy territory there, if you ask me. But I also liked when they kind of first encounter, and I know it's Tina doing it, but it's like all of a sudden Tina and Jason are standing in the woods from Evil Dead when you have the tree come up and attack. Just again, Evil Dead fan, so I couldn't help but make that connection.
I had I thought the same connection too. One thing I wish they would have done more, because she has the vision of the cousin getting murdered. Like I was expecting to see that more, like her having visions of the kills before they happened. But if she saw her mom, but I just felt like I thought there would have been more of that. Like they could have played that up a little bit more. But for an hour and 28 minutes, there's only and so many people to kill, because there was a lot of teenagers at that party. They needed about 3 less. I think it would have been okay.
So when you bring that up, her seeing the original guy, again, we don't know any of these people's names. They're so forgettable.
It's not important.
When she sees his death, and then she's running back to her house, and she sees the whatever it is,
metal rod,
the metal thing sticking in the back door. She tells Dr. Cruz and her mom about it. Dr. Cruz goes out. It's not there. Was it there? Now that you're saying all this, she manifests stuff and sees stuff. Was it there?
Well, he has it in his desk drawer, so I'm assuming he took it out.
That he took it,
hid it, because we don't see him. We don't see him look at it. He just comes back in and calls them out to come look at it. So you don't actually see him looking.
Out there. They have there's the hole that it created.
The hole is there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess I was just trying to think maybe they thought that was a manifestation. I don't know. Her powers are so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Exactly what they are and how they work and all make no sense.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite stupid things, which there's always gonna be a stupid thing in a horror movie, is Nick, the boyfriend, has seen her do all these things to him to try to kill him. And when he gets back up, he pulls out the gun and starts shooting. Like, dude, you think the bullets are gonna? She's hit him with nails already. She's hit him with, the house is falling on top of him. The gun's really gonna work? I just why? It was just so useless.
I have nothing good to say about this ending, because if you just take out the dad, make it like Vines or something. She controlled she's been controlling the matchbox and the other thing. Make it Vines that she pulls him down there, or the chain that he was stuck down there with before.
Yeah.
Have it come up and wrap around him.
Yeah.
It's then you go back and you think, okay, well, they only put that very beginning scene in there just so you could recall it back in the into the movie. And it's just like, what are we doing? And like you said, with the growing in her powers, Tim, too bad you weren't a story writer in 1988, because that is 10 times better than what we saw on film. And the ending is just of course, it's not a good movie, but it has certain expectations, I guess.
Yeah.
The seventh, and it's got to be better than that. But it wasn't. That's why they fell apart.
Yeah. I didn't understand why she didn't use her telekinesis powers to rip his arm off or hold him down or something. It was
No.
just,
Throw a
She's-
TV at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like she squeezed the mask and like he started
Right.
oozing whatever.
Yeah.
Do that again.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of worked.
Right. Yeah, well, I agree. Her powers are inconsistent, but she's also just starting to learn them. But of course, at that moment at the end, she has enough power to bring her father out of the water. So
Yeah. I don't know. You go back to the Carrie reference. I mean, you go back to Carrie, like Carrie, once she realizes she has those abilities, like she figures out how to use them.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things that works so well in Carrie is that she has full control over what she's doing by the time you reach that prom scene. It's not just, her going crazy. It's her going crazy and then using her powers the way she has learned how to use them. So, yeah. But I also, going back to the beginning, I love that the first 3 minutes of this movie is just saying, look, just in case you didn't see the first 6 movies.
Right.
Yeah.
And most of that footage of them showing the tombstone is just reused, not even movie footage, but the trailer for Jason Lives. Like
Jason
it wasn't
Lives.
even in the movie. That was from the trailer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, when it started, I was like, wait a minute, this is the next movie, right? Like when I saw him, when they like him coming back to life in the grave, I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this one already. Are we not redoing this one again, are we? So yeah.
Yeah, and not to jump ahead, because I'm sure the three of us will cover part 8 as well. But in my personal opinion, part 8 is worse than this one. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Charlie agrees with that.
I know part 7 is usually on the bottom when you see rankings.
Yeah.
I know this one's usually on the bottom, but it's not. It's second to last for me. Jason Takes Manhattan is at the bottom.
Another one I have not seen yet. So when we get to that one, it'll be fresh eyes for me.
Just skip it, Tim.
I can't. It's an 80s movie. We have to do it
without it.
Yeah. You can just get all your information, and Charlie and I will fill in the blanks.
That's fine.
Of everything else.
I'll give it to you guys. Save me the trouble. All right. Well, my last little trivia. Do you know why they called this movie New Blood?
Is it a Carrie reference?
Nope. I'll tell you this. The director doesn't know either.
Good job.
It seems like a fairly obvious reference to Tina Shepard stepping into Jason's new chief adversary after he's battled Tommy Jarvis for 3 straight movies. However, neither Daryl Haney, the scriptwriter, nor John Carl Buckler had anything to do with attaching that particular subtitle to the film. Buckler simply wanted to call it Friday the 13th Part 7 because he thought 7 was sort of a magical number. And to this day, he doesn't fully understand what New Blood is supposed to mean. I guess for a variety of reasons, Paramount couldn't be honest and just call it Friday the 13th, Part 7, Jason versus telekinetic teenage girl who are not legally allowed to refer as Carrie, or Friday the 13th, Part 7, don't worry, we've only got 2 or 3 more of these left in us.
Yeah, don't worry, we're almost done.
Yeah, exactly. We've almost maxed out. But also 1988 was the first year which all 3 of the then top horror series, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, all released new films in the same year. You had this one, New Blood, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Master, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Additionally, the first Child's Play was also released in 88, as were Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, and Phantasm 2, all of which would also become major horror series in their own. So 88 was a good year for horror. Well, maybe not a good year, but it was but it was a full year. Put it that way.
Quantity, not necessarily quality.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, at least it wasn't Halloween 5.
Yeah.
So it was Halloween. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 is one of my favorites, so I'll get that. Child's Play, I've never been a huge. I love the Chucky movies, but yeah, the first one just is what it is. If you ask me, I think I like the second one and when he gets more comedic a little bit later.
That's kind of how Friday the 13th. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street, like they get more fun the more zany or the more cartoonish.
Yeah, but then they got bad with Dream Child and Did you say which Hellraiser? Was it 2?
2, yeah.
Okay, and to me that one's better than the original.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you say came out?
Phantasm 2.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember Phantasm 2. I remember Phantasm 1, but I don't remember Phantasm 2, so can't say much about that one. But yeah, quantity over quality. but there were some good ones in there.
All right, box office. New Blood debuted at number 1 at the box office.
There was 10. Nothing else to watch that weekend.
There was no other new releases. It opened on May 13th, Friday, of course. An encouraging sign, since Jason Lives had been the first Friday the 13th not to debut at number 1. Unfortunately, New Blood faded fast, ending with 19.1 million domestic, which was slightly off of Jason Lives' 19. They were going down while Nightmare on Elm Street was going up. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 opened later that year, grossing $49.3 million. So, yeah, their little 19 wasn't even close to what Freddy was doing.
Yeah, but that still made it successful because it wasn't only like a $2 million budget.
Yeah. I mean, it made money, but it didn't make the kind of money that they were expecting. But I think that goes back to, like, even though the previous movies made money, they never put more money into the sequels. Like, the sequels all looked cheap because they wanted to make them cheap to get more money on the back end. So, yeah. But the thing is why it doesn't seem to look like an 88 movie. It looks more like a 85, 86 movie.
Which, speaking of, go back a couple of weeks to my podcast, The Moving Panels, and check out Tim and I talking about Superman 4.
Yeah.
Talking about, taking money away from a sequel and it looking like crap.
Yeah, we're going to give you $50 million to make this movie. Oh, sorry, make that $17 million.
No, it's like, make it $36 million. No, make it $17 million.
Oh, sorry, we're out of money. Whatever you have left to shoot, you got to do it now. Yeah. All right, let's get into the rewatchability nostalgia meter. This is our new segment where we take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. It is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with the waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. I think this is Charlie's first time telling us his ranking. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are some parameters for you to help you decide. 1 at the bottom says, I saw it once and that was enough. Right in the middle at the 5 is a good rewatch every couple of years, maybe longer. And the much coveted number 10 at the top is highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. I'm pretty sure I know where this one's going to land for everybody, but Charlie, to give you a second to think about it, I'll let Laramy go first. Where does Nightmare on Elm Street, I've switched to horror movies. Where does Friday the 13th Part 7 land for you on the rewatchability nostalgia meter?
Okay, so I'm gonna give this 2 different aspects.
Go for it.
So if I am putting it like I talked about at the beginning, where I am watching it because I am watching all of the Friday the 13th, that puts it probably about like a 6, maybe. If I include it as part of the series. If I take it out all by itself, then I'm probably hitting a 2, 3. It's still going to have the nostalgia factor for me, but the rewatchability is
way down.
Yeah, this nostalgia factor keeps it from being a 1, but so 2 or a 3 all by itself. With the series, I'd say probably a 6.
Okay. I don't have anything to counter that. What do you say, Charlie?
I too am going to give it 2 grades. If you could give me a version of just Kane Hodder, it's a solid 8. But you can't, and so adding in all the other garbage, it's a high 2. Maybe low 3. If it's Halloween, low 3.
Right. Oh, gosh. Yeah, this one doesn't have any nostalgia for me because, like I said, this was my first time watching it, so it's all about rewatchability for me, and it's not very high. So, yeah,
True.
I was kind of like Charlie. I was like 2, maybe a 3. Yeah, so it's way at the bottom. But I agree with you, Laramy. Like, I would watch it again because it's part of the series, but it's not.
Yes.
If I'm picking 1 or 2 to watch out of the series, it's not going to be my first, second, third, or even 4th choice.
Nah.
All right, well, now it's your turn, audience, to let us know where you think it lands on your rewatchability nostalgia meter. So please let us know. Reach out to us on the social media, or you can send us an email at info@80sflickflashback.com. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you talking about Friday the 13th once again. It's been a fun ride. Anything to add before we wrap it up?
I'm a big fan of Carrie.
One thing I found interesting was that from pre-production to release date was only 6 months.
Yeah, I did see that.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And no wonder it's awful.
Yeah, they were rushed because with the problems with when the deal with getting Freddy versus Jason fell through, and then trying to come up with a script, casting, and everything. Yeah, they were they didn't have much time to get it ready for a Friday the 13th release. So for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say to anyone who might check out the documentary, I think it's called Behind the Mask. They are going to tell you that Jennifer Sullivan, who played Melissa,
right,
passed away. She did not.
She did not.
She is still alive and well. She just escaped Hollywood and is just living her life.
Yeah, I think they said that they were asking different people, and they thought they were talking about a different Jennifer Sullivan that had passed away, and so just it was a mix up with the names. But yeah, I did read that as well. Oh man, yeah, I almost want to ask, like Laramy has on his podcast, your pairing. Like if this might be a good one. We didn't like this one, so if you could refer something else that if they watched this and needed something to kind of cleanse their palate, what would you recommend after this one? Putting you on the spot.
I mean, are we going to stick with a horror movie?
Sure, doesn't have to be.
Okay. Carrie. Let's go with Carrie. Go see Carrie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sticking with the same cast and crew, you could go watch some Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, that'd be a change.
I mean, look, you want a low budget Kane Hodder killing a bunch of kids, Hatchet.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
Again, you stick with the same director. We said that this is the same director.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, go see Hatchet. Hatchet's fun and you get to see a lot more blood, and you don't just have to imagine what Jason just did.
So did you see blood on their shirts?
Yeah. I'm sorry. These are called slasher films.
Yeah.
No offense, I want to see the death. I want to see it happen.
Right.
That's what this one should have been called. The subheading should have been Jason or Friday the 13th 5. Use your imagination.
Yeah, that's a double meaning there.
Yeah. I think the fans have given it. I got to go back to my notes. The fans had renamed it after all the cuts, and they called it
The New Cut. It's Friday the 13th, The New Cut.
Instead of The New Blood, Friday the 13th, The No Blood is what the fans called it.
That's a good one. That's not bad.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of the podcast. We'll see you guys again next Friday the 13th. Of course, I'll probably have you guys on for other things as well. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, guys, for joining. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. There's a legend around here, a killer buried but not dead. A curse, Jason Voorhees' curse. They say he died as a boy, but he keeps coming back. Few have seen him and lived. Some have even tried to stop him. No one can.